Hello friends, this is Dr. Amarjit Kaur. I am professor at Gurugram University. I've been working into education and food industry from the last about 30 years. I have authored 8 books and 53 research papers. This is my privilege that I am here with you this day to talk on reading skills. Friends, this is the part of the business communication series which we have continued from the last couple of weeks. We have covered initially 2 skills already in this part, so which are listening skills and speaking skills, and third is reading, and fourth would be writing skills. So primarily there are 4 skills in the communication: listening, speaking, reading and writing. Alright, so we are here at the third skill. So what is reading skill? So reading skill, as the names suggest and as everyone would know to some extent, is the ability to decode the text, right? So we have some text in front of us. That text could be in the form of a newspaper, in the form of a book, in the form of a magazine, in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, in any form. So the ability to decode what is there in the text is reading skill. Alright, so it includes phonics, recognition of the vocabulary, decoding and the fluency. So there are 3 major components in the reading. Right? One, we have to decode what is there in the text, right? Then the second component is how fluent we are in reading that, in decoding that, and then comprehension. So thus this reading is basically its receptive action. Out of the 4 basic skills in communication we talk, this is a receptive action. So reading is basically reciprocal to writing. Somebody has written something, some text is there in front of you. It could be on a piece of paper or on a wall or any part, anything, right? So we are reciprocating to whatever has been written, which means we are trying to comprehend that text which is available in front of us. So reading is reciprocal to writing. For example, if somebody is speaking, the other person is listening. So listening we call as reciprocal to speaking. Same way, here we call reading is reciprocal to writing, right? So it helps us to appreciate and understand the opinion of others. When we read others' opinion through the text, whichever form it could be an email, a letter, a book. So we get to know the idea about a particular subject matter or any context it could be of the person who has written it. Okay, so there are certain things which we call as essentials for reading skills. What are those? First of all, to develop reading skills, one must know or understand that we have to decode. We are decoding whatever is there. So the most vital step in reading is basically decoding the text. I should know that language. So if there's a manuscript in front of me written in French, so I should know that language. So I can decode only when I know that language, that particular science or language. If it is something in German, I should know that language, right? So decoding is the first step in the reading process. And then in the reading skills, second thing is how fluent we can. If you have noticed a very young child who just listen, in the very first year of school, KG, etc., who's trying to identify letters, be it Hindi, English or any other language. So the fluency, they try to combine words, right? So letters. So the fluency will depend upon how well you decode, how well you know the language. And it's not only the language, another essential part is the vocabulary within that language. So whatever language has been used, whichever language has been used in that text, but vocabulary is something, it's not expected that every person knows 100% existing vocabulary pertaining to that language. It's not possible. Just think about it. We come across every day, there are a couple of words in English which we are not aware of. We have to look at the dictionary, we have to refer to the dictionary or Google, for that matter. Same way, we come across so many such things in Hindi as well, not only English. So it could be any language. So it is not expected that every person, he or she may be knowing a particular language for up to reading or speaking level, but may not be familiar with or well versed with the complete vocabulary existing in the literature. Okay, so another essentials for reading skill is that one should have good vocabulary and should keep on improving the vocabulary of that particular language. And then how do we interpret sentences? Cohesion we say. So sentence interpretation is also something which affects the reading skill. So how do we interpret the sentence? And not only that, the most important thing which I think, because we are talking about reading skills in the context of business communication, right? So you would be, and it means in a business, what kind of text you would be reading? The most common thing which will come to your mind is notice, circular, memo, your email, another very, very important medium nowadays, right? So these are the texts, or processes, brochures. So these are the couple of things which you come across while you're working, right? You're working for somebody or for working for yourself, doesn't matter. Either you're in a job or you're an entrepreneur, but in both the way, so in businesses, these are the documents we generally come across. We could have marketing brochure, we could have HR policy, we could have production policy, we could have a couple of things, standard operating procedures for all the things which we do as a business. You get emails on every day, you get few notices, you get few messages on text if there's an official group. So how well you can comprehend that or understand that will depend upon many things. How well you are in decoding that, how fluently you read it, what is your vocabulary level, sentence interpretation, and as I was saying, the most important thing is reasoning and background knowledge. I may be able to read a sentence, I can decode what is written, but I may not be able to understand the meaning of that particular text because I do not have background knowledge. Let's say it says, the GDP has gone up from 18% to 20% this afternoon, this quarter. So this is just an example I am taking. I am not referring to actual data. So unless you know GDP, so you were able to read GDP, right? It has gone up from 18 to 20% this quarter. Fine, you were able to read this line, but unless you know that what is GDP, number one, and number two, what was the past quarter's GDP, or it just says the GDP is declining because of these reasons. So those reasons have been listed and you were able to read that. But can you draw that meaning from that, or could you understand what the writer is trying to say? Unless you have background knowledge of the economic terms which were used in that text, in that message, in that newspaper item, right? Or you could do the reasoning. So reasoning is another, logical thinking is also important. So the reading skill has to do with your intellect level as well. The more intellectual people, good intelligent people, they are likely to have better decoding than relative to a person who is less knowledgeable or has or less background knowledge of the subject. Certainly it happens so, right? And then it also matters that how good you have your working memory or how much attention you pay. You may read, but you may not retain that in your memory. Or you may have read something in the past and now you are reading the sequel of that particular text, but you could not retain the previous reading. You may not be able to link. This happens. We have seen this happening many a time, right? So your working memory, your attention, you are reading, somebody asks you to read, you are able to read from the PowerPoint presentation which is there in the meeting, you read that, but your attention was on, let's say, on the snacks which were served in the meeting. It's an official meeting going on. You were given the task to read the PowerPoint presentation. Your boss just tells you, please guys, come on, read this for me. Read these numbers from the balance sheet for me. No, you were reading it. You were able to read it because you know the language. You did that, but you were not paying attention because your attention was on the snacks. This is quite possible. So your memory, you could not retain that in your mind. You could not draw some conclusion from the data, though you read that. So this could be simply because of attention. Another reason that you could not draw meaning from that, or you could not comprehend that those numbers, simply because you don't have knowledge about assets, liabilities, equity, etc. Those values, those numbers, those data points which were given in the balance sheet, which you were reading, right? Is it possible? It is quite possible. Okay, so the point I was making is that it's not only that you know language and it's enough, or you have the good fluency in reading and it's enough. You have good vocabulary bank and it's enough. No. So essential for having good reading skill is that you need to develop attention. You need to develop the practice to pay attention to what you read, so that you could get the crux, you could get the deep meaning of the text, and you have some background knowledge. Means you need to read other things as well to draw meaning from this. So you should have knowledge of the subject matter you are reading. So it means it needs pre-reading. So we say a particular course may needs a pre-reading. So pre-reading means you have read that and now you can link it to what we are doing now or reading now, right? So this is how we can make the reading skill very, very effective. So as far as the importance of reading skills are concerned, you can understand very well, right? Every professional, whichever capacity he or she may work, either an HR professional, marketing professional, finance professional, you imagine anyone who is working in the business, right? They all need to have ability to read well, because this ensures your progress at the workplace, because this is part of communication, right? If you are able to read well and understand the meaning, if you're getting some instruction from your boss and you could not comprehend because you could not read it well or you couldn't pay attention, just imagine what will happen. You will not deliver what was expected. You will not do what was expected to be done, right? And that will certainly hamper your growth in the workplace. So reading skill can actually, help employees to perform their work better, communicate better, of course. So important is because at the workplace performance matters. So you can actually perform only if you are a good reader as well, than only a good speaker or writer. Okay. Then it actually educates you. It's a kind of self-education. We are self-educating. We are self-improving while reading, and that leads to success. Successful. There are hundreds of examples of different managers, entrepreneurs who says, I am inspired by this reading. There are many such entrepreneurs who have come on record and saying that we were inspired by this reading, by this strategy, Blue Ocean Strategy. I read that book and I developed a particular strategy for my business. So we actually get deep insights about business strategies, about developing new skills, what are the developments in the industry I am working in. So by reading, I am actually self-educating, I am improving, and I am leading to success. It's just not reading. Reading doesn't mean just the ability to read. If we are able to draw some meaningful information from what we read and some relevant information pertaining to our business, our entrepreneurship, then certainly, and if I adopt for certain things which I feel practically possible for my business, this leads to good success, right? So we can adopt from other strategies, from competitors' performance report. So I'm running a business in steel in industry, and I'm reading the report, the financial report of some other competitor in the same industry. Why? Why, you would think, why? Why would I do that? I would do that to know how did they fare and how did I as a business, right? Their assets have grown this much. If we were the two competitors who started in the same time, almost in the same time, and with the same investment, then certainly it becomes more relevant and interesting for you to refer to the performance of the other company which is in the neighborhood, performing or working in almost similar economic environment and started almost at the same time you started. Will that not help you? It will. You will get to know what they are doing. You will get to know how they are doing in terms of their assets, liabilities, sales growth, profit growth, expenses. So you can compare, you can draw inferences from that reading for sure, right? So friends, now I would like to spend remaining few minutes of this session to help you know that how can we improve reading skills. Having said that, reading is very, very important. Having said that, anyone who want to excel in business, he need to have good reading skills. You know, people who are working, especially the professionals. I won't say that that we don't have any work where where the people who don't or who can't read don't work. They can, they do, very good job actually. There are many people who have never been able to go to school, never could develop reading skills. Fine, they are having many more skills. They are talented, in art and craft, in painting, in pottery, whatever. So there are a couple of professions, but I'm talking about the business world where somebody is pursuing marketing job, finance job, HR job, operations job, those jobs. So please don't misunderstand when I'm saying that reading is essential for professions. So there are people who have never gone to school, can't read, write, and they are doing extremely well. So leaving that, keeping that aside, now I would like to give you few tips that how to improve reading skills. Every reading has some purpose. We read with some aim in mind. So there's a notice about meeting. So while I'm reading, I want to know the place, the agenda, the time. So my aim is to know what kind of meeting it is this. The agenda will help me where it is going to be conducted or organized and what time. So that is my aim is to know about the meeting time and venue and the agenda. We do read, so this is first thing that always identify the aim. Let's say I'm just reading the newspaper. I want to update my knowledge about what has happened in the last 24 hours in our country, right? So that is newspaper. So getting idea about economics, about sports, about whatever part of the newspaper I'm reading. So be sure about the aim of reading. So if I'm going through the offer letter given by my future employer to me, so I'm reading that, I want to understand terms and condition, my salary, my joining date. Those would be questions in my mind when I'm reading that, right? So be sure about the aim of the reading. Knowing the second thing is that we should be knowing the background information. So if I receive a letter and I know that I appeared for interview and this was what was discussed in the interview. So you have some background knowledge of information about that particular letter, right? Then another is that we should be selecting and using a particular reading strategy. All the time we don't read every text with the same intense or intention, with the same objective, with the same time even, right? So we have different reading strategies for different occasions, for different purposes. So reading strategy is very, very important. In fact, today the second half we are going to spend about this only, the reading types or reading strategy. So selecting and using reading strategy is at most important, and we will spend a complete session the coming next 30 minutes after this session today itself. Then selecting the relevant text. So for that we have a strategy, in fact. So to improve our reading skills, we should be knowing what is relevant for me. I want to update my knowledge about sports, and within the sports I want to update my knowledge about tennis. So what is the relevant text for me? To read that particular magazine or book or blog on a website which talks about updates on tennis. So my relevant text is not all the sports news. It's only the tennis I am interested. Okay? So this is how we need to actually narrow down our reading. So that improves your reading skills, because then you would be interested in that text. It will actually seek your attention and you would be able to comprehend because you have some background knowledge and you want to update your knowledge. Okay? Then it's important that we should not just leave everything to our memory. We should try to note down few important points. Well, there are few people who are very blessed with the good memories. I have few of them at my home as well, but not everyone. For example, I am not very good when it comes to memory. I am just an average person, man. So I always prefer to prepare my notes whenever I read anything. Could it be book or could be even story, even anything I wish to develop, any new topic I am developing for even this lecture. So I do note down few things. So it's better to note down important points. You may use your mobile phone to note down. It's not necessary that we should pick up a pen and pencil or copy. No, you can make notes in the laptop, at your phone, at anything which you are comfortable at. And we should be having an idea about writer. The text we pick to read or an email we read, so we should understand the writer. The writer of that email could be your boss, who is a production guy, so he would be talking from that perspective, right? You may choose to read about a particular game, and the writer is the ex-coach in that particular area, right? So understand his or her point, whosoever is the writer is. Then concentration, certainly. So attention or concentration is important. Unless you pay attention or you concentrate on what you are reading, you may be reading only for 2 minutes. You may be just reading the important things only the headlines. But do pay attention to that particular point of time when you are actually reading, right? So then we should be highlighting or annotate. So nowadays we use annotate while taking our Zoom classes or classes on any online platform. So highlighting text helps you. One is making notes separately, but within the text if it is possible. I have seen many students, when they study a particular subject book, they do highlight certain part of the text which they think is important, which they think was discussed in the class and may come in the exam. And let's say I am preparing notes to write something on National Education Policy 2020. I am preparing a research paper, let's assume. I am preparing an article. So I am reading couple of articles whosoever have already written. So what would happen? I would pick up that particular text, or I will highlight that particular text which relates to the objective of my research. My objective is to find out the implementation plan, right? So I would pick up that part of the article or the research papers which I am referring to, which highlights only the implementation, right? The research papers which I am referring or I am reading may be talking about objectives, may be talking about the past, the history, the logic, the committee of the, who developed this NEP 2020. It could be anything. We could have different aspects, covered in different articles. But I would like to highlight only that which is related to me. And what is aim of my reading? I am reading them to know or understand the implementation strategy. I am reviewing, for example, the literature just to develop an idea about the implementation of NEP 2020. Okay. Then we should try to personalize the content. Give your own idea. Think about your own perspective while you are reading. One is a writer and one is your own knowledge and the background, which helps you to understand that. And we should incorporate more senses in reading. Reading of course needs your eyes. You read, but sometimes it's important. Let's say somebody is presenting in front of me and I am reading those slides, but the person is speaking as well, right? And he is using his body language. So if it is possible, it is not possible all the time, but we should incorporate more senses, more senses than just the reading skill to understand the text. But it will be only if it's possible to use more senses than the reading. Okay, and then we should have our own reading goals. So everyone should have his or her reading goal. It will depend upon my speed. So I'm a poor reader or I'm a fast reader, but I should have my own reading goals. I may like to update myself every week about the national education policy. I may like to update every week about the particular industry. I would like to update myself about employment news. So we should have those reading goals. And last tip is that we should reading in portion helps. Instead of reading 10 hours in constantly, if you decide to read in portion, then the retention is better, the comprehension is better, right? So these are the tips which helps you to develop good reading skills, which is really essential to work in any business or any workplace. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.